Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the end game. Welcome to you this Tuesday afternoon. This week, Dominic and I were talking about current events and the current situation with the election and the politics of it. And we got around talking to Donald Trump and what the impact he has on the nation and why are things so polarizing. And there's a disdain for him, not only across the nation, but also within politics itself. And I'm going to touch that piece. Dominic will address the entertainment, the Hollywood, the business element. But I wanted to talk to you about the political piece in DC. So you have, District of Columbia, DC, disrupted by a guy who's never been in politics, Donald Trump. He's a non-ideologue, and how do we address that? How do we look at that? And you will see that most politicians are very disingenuous how they do business. They have a very very short memory. The only people that probably have a shorter memory than politicians are probably premier defensive backs in the NFL after a bad play and toddlers. Those are probably the only two other groups of people that have a shorter memory than a politician. So we look back to Donald Trump, has he always been a Republican? Has he always been a Democrat? Well, we know that for a long period of time, he was a registered Democrat from 2001, 2009, and then he was a registered Republican, then back to a Democrat, and then to an independent, and then to non-declaring of what he was. He just says, "I'm not anything. I'm not going to claim anything." And then he comes out very, very strong in 2015 as a bona fide Republican. And we know that he is not a conservative by nature. We know that he is not a liberal by nature. What we know is he's a business person who's an opportunist. And who better knows an opportunist than somebody that's been elected to Congress? So I did some digging on it. And I kind of looked and said, who has Trump aligned with throughout his tenure as a business person? And it was pretty interesting to see how his alliances are. So when I'm going to read these names of these people that he's donated a lot of money to, and only since 2011 has he really donated more to Republican races at the federal and the state level. But primarily, the lion's share of his money went to Democrats at the federal level and also at the state level. So kind of some examples of that. When I look at that, Charlie Rangel, New York, Chuck Schumer, donated to Chuck Schumer, donated to Hillary Clinton, Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator New York, Harry Reid, the former senator from Nevada that was the actual the leader in the Senate, John Kerry, when he was operating at the Massachusetts federal level as a senator. Believe it or not, Anthony Weiner, congressman out of New York, mayor, and even Joe Biden himself. And that's at the federal level. So when we talk about the state level, Andrew Cuomo, even Kamala Harris at her state level races, and Rod Blagojevich, the guy that was from Illinois, that landed up doing some time for trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat when he was the governor. So what does that tell you about the left? What does it tell you about Trump? That he's been aligned with them the whole time. And they never had any issue with his personality. You think he's changed in 74 years? He's the same person. And they supported him because he was giving them money. And he knows them. And conversely, on the other side of that, when he gave money at the federal level to Republicans recently, as recent of 2011 and forward, he had given money to the late John McCain, Mitch McConnell, the current Senate Majority Leader, Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina, and even George Bush. And at the state level for Republicans, he donated to Greg Abbott, who is the current governor of Texas, George Bush, and even Jeb Bush's gubernatorial race out of Florida. So that tells you that he's donating to the Republicans as well. And when he was asked, why do you donate to both sides? He says it's smart business. And, it is smart business because if you look at all the legislation that happens at the state level in New York that affects his business, what happens in Florida affects his business as well. Also, it's probably his residence because the state tax compared to the state tax in New York is astronomical as it is in California. So he's doing what a regular business person would do. So, did this disdain for him develop over time, or was it always there and they were just holding their nose while they were taking his money? You could probably answer that question for yourself. So why is he so disruptive to them? Here's the deal. The Congress as a whole, on the House and the Senate, all our previous presidents, they were globalist. They opened up the trade to China, put them in the World Trade Organization. Dominic and I have gone through a laundry list of politicians on both sides that are in bed with China in terms of deals, making their money, lobbying. You hear a bunch of things right now that's alleged with Hunter Biden in Ukraine and China. We know that all happens. We know that in recent modern history that there will be no person in the Bush family that wants for money. There will be nobody in the Clinton family that wants for money. There will be nobody in the Obama family that wants for money. Nobody in the Biden family nor the Trump family forever. That is lifelong wealth that's been created by a brand, by a name, and it's not going to end anytime soon. So before Trump, what you had was, faux resistance, right? When it was George Bush as the president, 43, all you heard was war crimes, fake war, get them out. All in the meantime, everybody was doing well from the lucrative federal contracting jobs, KBR, Halliburton, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. All those things are being made and sold, and everybody's doing well. I'm assuming everybody's portfolio did well during that time in Congress. And then as we migrate into a Barack Obama administration who vowed to end the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which that didn't happen, shut down Guantanamo Bay, clearly that didn't happen. And why didn't that happen? Because, when I was a young leader, I had a boss tell me there's three things in leadership. There's things that you know, there's things that you don't know, and then the third thing is the most important, things that you don't know that you don't know. And there's a whole bunch of that third category once you move into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Barack Obama said, hey, I'm going to shut all these wars down and I'm going to close Gitmo. And once you get in there and you get the briefs and you realize how much of the American economy is tied to the military-industrial complex, how much money is tied to donors, how much of that activity is linked directly to K Street lobbyists and think tank groups and people that develop new candidates and people that donate to your coffers for elections. It's very clear that Barack Obama had no appetite to end those wars. As a matter of fact, in some cases, you may or may not know that he was even more aggressive with drone technology, killing more people with drones than ever before, because it's relatively clean for most people. It's a drone. You don't got to put troops on the ground, and it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to do that in terms of what it would cost to put a brigade level or a regimental level group of people on the ground. It's easy to do the drone. So Barack Obama kind of enhanced warfare under his watch. There was a surge in Afghanistan. And then when Trump gets there, he literally starts to shut that down in a lot of different ways. And have you ever thought that there would be a time where you would hear Republicans and Democrats both complain about ending wars? I never did, right? My experience has been Republicans are quick to send me to war, and then they don't want to pay on the back end. Democrats are reluctant to send you to war. They gave you kind of some very, very dangerous, scary rules of engagement to fight with, because before we go into war with the Democratic president, every president, but even more so with the Democratic president, they sit a whole bunch of lawyers down to determine what's the best way to go kill enemies, which is pretty not cool. But nonetheless, ROEs are developed. Those things happen, and the wars didn't stop. And Trump didn't want to do that. Well, one of the things he did is he opened up that aperture for the generals and the flag officers and the general officers to whatever resources you need. I'm not going to tell you what weapon system to use to achieve your objective, which was done previously during the Vietnam conflict. And it's been done a lot of other times where rules of engagement kind of dictate, hey, we know those are bad guys on the convoy over there. Let's not bomb them. Let's just send them some leaflets telling them that they have like 24 hours to get out of their vehicle. Otherwise, they're going to get bombed. Not probably an effective way to wage warfare on the enemy of the United States, but nonetheless, that's how things operate. So Trump has disrupted this military-industrial complex immensely. Because when you look at things and you listen to guys that are doing it for a living, the experts that are in the SOC community, they always say, hey, if you send a special operations force element with the right amount of resources to it and the right amount of financial backing, they can work with these tribes and these villages. It's a less footprint. It's safer. They're able to operate at that level. Tier 1, tier 2 assets, they're able to go ahead and achieve those objectives. And it doesn't require the huge footprint and the logistical train that it takes when you take conventional units and put them on the ground. However, that soft approach does not generate a lot of revenue for contractors. It doesn't generate a lot of revenue for these politicians that are knee deep in all the technology. They get briefed on all these things, and then they're able to go in and buy stock. And then they know that maybe 3 months down the road, that this particular measure that's in the House is going to open up the opportunity to use a particular weapon system or to use a particular piece of equipment, and they're on the ground floor of all that. So they've disrupted that as well. The other thing is that he's not beholden to anybody, right? He doesn't want to move on to anything from here, right? Most presidents, they'll go on the speaking tour and make, $250,000 for one talk. We probably can, come to the conclusion that probably there's not a lot of people that are going to invite President Trump to come and to give speeches once he's out of office, whether that's in January of 2021 or after the 2024 election. It doesn't matter. So what you see is that people go into politics, I would venture to say, for some legitimate reasons at one point, and then you realize in order to stay and to have the backing of your the Democratic National Committee or your Republican National Committee, you have to play by the rules. And if you don't, they'll primary you. And unless you're in a super, super conservative district that there's no chance of being moved out because it's all name recognition, or you're in a super liberal district where there's no chance for you to be removed from your seat. Kind of an example would be like Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, AOC in New York, Chuck Schumer in New York. You had Jeff Sessions in Alabama that was there for a number of years. You had Bob Dole, who was out of Missouri for a number of years. So unless you're in some of those races where you're untouchable, you're the ones making the decision. But if you're in a swing district as a congressional person, you're going to have to basically shut up and color and follow the model. And Trump has disrupted that because he doesn't care. He was rich, whether how you feel he earned his wealth through his dad. He took $1 million and turned it in whatever he's worth now. I don't know what he's worth, but I know everyone says, well, he was given $1 million. Most of the people, you give them $1 million, they'll squander it, in less than 2 years. So he did build something with it, and he had a name, he had capital behind that name, and he had banks that knew his father. But he was already kind of affluent before he even went in to office. So he really doesn't need this to catapult him to the next level. Now, will he milk this and turn it into a 45 MAGA party? Of course he will. That's his job. And that's what he does. He rebrands everything. But I will say that he's disrupting their normal operations in DC. Republicans really don't like him. He primaried against 16 other people, against 16 other Republicans, legitimate Republicans, with the exception maybe John Kasich. He went up against a Bush. He went up against a Jeb Bush. That could have been a third time Bush as president. He went up against Marco Rubio. He went up against Ted Cruz, a guy who's fought cases before the Supreme Court, and he beat them all. And he wasn't even a real Republican. And then he beats Hillary Clinton, who is an establishment Democrat who basically, you know, shut everything down to get to the nomination and still lost. So that set everyone's agenda back, because if you had a Bush presidency, you would have been able to usher in, you know, all the Bush people that he had, as the father, the son, all their buddies. They would have came back in, you know, Rumsfeld's niece and Dick Cheney's brother-in-law, whoever the case, all those neocons would have came ushered back in. And then if you had, you know, Ted Cruz, you know, then you get, you know, Governor Abbott in here. You get that Texas flavor, which are still descendants from the Bush era of leadership in this state. Or you get Hillary Clinton, and you got, you know, all conditions normal, the same group of people that probably the Clinton Foundation would probably still be very lucrative. It's not lucrative anymore because there's no access. And that's how things work. And you can villainize the Clintons or you can villainize the Bidens, but every single family does it that's in power. The Kennedys did it. Why would it be any different for the Bidens, the Obamas, the Bushes, the Trumps? They're all of the same thought process. They're all enriching themselves, and everyone already has their preconceived bias of, you know, why you should vote one way, and you got to make that determination for yourself. But I will tell you, like or dislike, Trump is no friend of DC to either party, and that should say something. And I'm not giving an endorsement of Trump by any means. There's a lot left to be desired about his personality. We all understand that. But like I said, personality isn't policy. Policy is longstanding. Unless it's an executive order, then it can just kind of be scratched out upon the next president, or it may go to court for litigation. But he's not liked by DC because he disrupts their apple cart. And he would disrupt any apple cart. It doesn't matter where he would go. He could disrupt anything. That's his personality. He seeks conflict. He seeks drama. And you see a lot of that ablazed in social media. The people that don't like Trump because of his rhetoric and his visceral attitude, and, you know, the calls for, in their mind, calls for violence. The same people that dislike him actually operate the same way. What I found over 50 years of living is the people that you dislike the most, you're probably more similar to than you really want to admit. So there's a reason the politicians don't like them, because they're all opportunists. They're fake ideologues. Trump is a non-ideologue 100%. He's a guy that could hate you one day and then make a good deal with you tomorrow if it benefits him. And that's somewhat kind of a politics and somewhat what politicians do. They're ideologues in some regard. But if they thought Trump was this bad person, if you look at that laundry list, the Abbotts, the Bushes, the Grahams, the McConnells, the Cuomos, the Harrises, the Bidens, the Schumers, they all took money from Trump. They're all the same. And the more you think they're different, the more you're going to be probably disappointed, because they're all the same person. You give a person power, it's a matter of time before they exploit it. So I just wanted to drop that nugget on you. That's about a 19-minute video there. Dominic's going to come in and do a video himself, and he's going to talk about the Hollywood and the business industry and what their issue is with Trump, and he'll lay that out. But hey, once again, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. If there's anything that you want us to discuss, thanks for requesting the Ice Cube stuff. Hopefully we kind of put that out there for you guys to kind of understand our perspective and our view of that situation. So we'll see how it goes. We got about 2 more weeks to election time. So one way or the other, my prediction for the election, it's not really about who's going to win or who's going to lose. I'm not going to make that prediction. My prediction will be that COVID-19 will be over in the media, no matter who gets elected or reelected. And here's my reason why. If Trump is reelected, all the COVID news stories and all the things that are brought up, they're going to realize that wasn't a silver bullet that ended Donald Trump. So it'll serve of no value to his opposition, and they will have to find a new arrow, a new bullet to attack him with. So if Trump's reelected, COVID goes away because it was a non-lethal shot to Donald Trump. On the other side of that, if Joe Biden is elected, the media will clear the path of COVID-19 discussions, uh, allowing him to be able to legislate and move into office, and then it'll be a soft landing. So for America, I'm going to call my shot that one way or the other, your COVID-19 information is probably going to diminish by at least 60% after the election. So that's my call. We'll see how it plays out on November 3rd. Good luck to everybody, and God bless you guys.